يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. It's a Saturday morning and that means you and I are together on Let's Talk right up until 10. And I think 2 weeks ago we had Suraya Nawab in the studio talking about the 25th celebration of Careline, or rather that the Islamic Careline is in service for 25 years. Alhamdulillah, they have served our community very well, and long may they live and prosper, inshallah. All of those people giving of their time in a voluntary capacity, and of course the few full-time staff there as well. They are certainly doing amazing work. And I've asked the question 2 weeks ago, what would this community have been like without the services of Islamic Careline? So we are truly grateful for the Jamiyat for their support and all of the people that give of themselves selflessly to Islamic Careline. And the good news from ITV is that Let's Talk and Islamic Careline have formed a collaboration. So inshallah, every 2 weeks, Suraya or someone, one of the other social workers or psychologists will be in studio talking about family matters, and we do hope that you are going to become a part of that conversation as and when it happens. So let's introduce once again the lovely Suraya Nawab. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thanks for having me back again on your show.
I am so happy that we formed this partnership because I do believe it's going to add a lot of value, not only to ourselves, but to our families and our communities at large. And of course, we also welcome you, our valued and esteemed viewers, to call in and suggest the type of discussions you'd like us to have on air here. So between Careline, Islamic Careline, and Let's Talk, the type of conversations you want us to put out there for the benefit of your health and well-being, inshallah. Suraya, the last time you were here, we spoke about the 25th anniversary of Islamic Careline. We spoke, I think we ended on the note where I said there's an absence of male volunteers and male social workers and psychologists at Careline. You started explaining that. We ran out of time. Would you like to finish that thought, please?
Okay, as I was saying, I think there has been a trend in the number of clients that we get that are male. The number of males that actually present with issues that they may be having personally or with their families. And so previously, it was always the women or the females in the home or the family or the relationship that would phone and say, I'm having a problem. But as I say, the trend has shifted considerably. So right now, we actually have between 45 and 50% of male clients. Okay, so that's a big shift from 25 years ago when we started. And then in terms of the counselors, yes, as I said, we do have male counselors, and it's a growing trend because now the Jamiyat has collaborated with us, and we're helping them and guiding them to start a fully fledged male counseling service based at the Jamiyat. Also very much on the lines of the way the Islamic Careline is run, and as I say, we do supervision and we do training for them, and we guide the Jamiyat as well as the male counselors in terms of some of the issues that they see or they need to address. So it's a work in progress. We're looking forward to more males coming forward, but we're very happy that there has been the spark in the community that males are looking at and saying, we can make a difference and we want to do this. So it's not really a female sort of or a woman's role alone, you know. They're taking responsibility for a lot of the things in the community which they think they can help with and make a difference.
And rightly so, because it's not only the woman's responsibility to take on all of the burden of a fractured family or a dysfunctional family. She needs her partner and her children on board as well. It's pointless me coming in for counseling when the problem is not only not only rests with me, my partner is part of that problem.
It's a systems approach which we use very much at the Care Line, because we'll have a person-centered approach where we concentrate on the person sitting in front of us and their needs and their issues or challenges, and help them talk through to help themselves, basically. That's what counseling is. It's helping others to help themselves. It's not advice. It's not telling them what to do. It's helping them to help themselves, basically. And so we also use another paradigm, and that is in academic terms or theory terms, it's called systems theory, where obviously we involved different members of the family or the community, depending on what the psychosocial issue is that we're dealing with. So, of course, I mean, males form a very, very important part of relationships, whether they're nuclear or whether they're extended families, whether even males alone going through perhaps a substance abuse problem. They cannot help themselves all on their own. We need to bring in family members, whether it's parents or just a single mom, or whether it's a spouse or children. So, of course, men are very important to the work we do. And even in abusive relationships, I mean, really, very often, if a husband is or a partner or a spouse is totally remorseful and really feels, it's a lot like the substance abuse thing, you know, in the abusive relationships, there are people who really hit rock bottom and say, what am I doing to myself? I'm losing my family. My behavior is really not conducive to building relationships. I need to look at myself and have something. So it's when they see it like a disease, or when they see it like something that they can do something about, they become an absolutely important part of that relationship. And who are we to stop them then from actually helping themselves through a long counseling process to change their behavior? And it's very much a cognitive way of also looking at it, you know, changing mindset. And they may turn out to be the best spouses after that, but we need to give them a chance at the same time. I'm in no way discounting the abhorrent fact of abuse and gender violence in the community. What I'm saying is, there are a few cases where males can come forward and say, I need help, you know, and so we would definitely want to help them in that way as well. So,
in terms of substance abuse, which we will inshallah cover in future programs, we know it's a huge problem in our community and society at large. The type of support you offer, obviously you've also indicated that it's long-term
yes.
support. Do you have a substance abuse specialist that works with the addict or with the patient?
What the counselors, you know, everybody is not geared up to do all sorts of counseling. You get into a basic counseling course, you do that, you do your practicals at the office. Well, that's how we work with our participants who actually do the training. And then as you start counseling, you'll automatically find that you're leaning towards either marital issues to deal with that and you enjoy that more, or play therapies with children who are having issues, and so you'd specialize in that, for example, or you may be doing mediation. We do a lot of family mediation as well at the office, and presently it's myself and Anissa that are trained, certified mediators, so we do that. But we'll get counselors who feel they want to do more psychometrics, or they want to deal with cases of substance abuse. So out of their own interest, they would expand their own knowledge on it. But we also at the Care Line offer a very important capacity development mechanism for our counselors, and that is something that we give off to them free of charge because they don't get paid for their services. But self-development and capacity development in terms of the work through training, and so we get specialists that would come in and train on specific substance abuse issues. So, for example, if we're looking at now the new designer drugs and things like that, and now the internet, it's easy, you can Google a lot of stuff and you can get lots of information, but then we'll get a specialist to come and upskill counselors. So on the one hand we have, so if a case comes in and presents with, say, a problem with substance abuse, then we look at counselors who are
that way inclined.
That way inclined and more interested or better at dealing with those
Absolutely.
issues. And so that case will be allocated to that counsellor.
All right, we're going to go for our first ad break, but last week, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about payment or people coming to you for assistance. And we know that counselling, if you go to a private therapist or counselling, it does cost a lot of money. It's nothing under 500 Rand a session.
Yes.
You indicated that you do welcome donations, but I think a lot of people who come to Islamic Care Line are probably people who can't afford to go to a private therapist, or perhaps they just want to come because it is a service offered to the community. Is there a minimum or a maximum amount
We work on about a 300 Rand intake for the intake.
The first intake,
the first intake, and then 200 after that, or 250, depending on a salary scale. So our rates are based on that, and a minimum of 50 Rand.
That would be the minimum if you can't afford it.
But there are still people who walk out and it is not an essential part of the service. If they walk out and decide they don't want to give anything, then it's fine. And if they come in, and we've got clients who over years and years have gone through the issues, gone through the help of the care line, and now and then they'll come in every alternate month or so and give 1,000 Rand donation or 500 Rand donation or whatever it may be. So it's both sides of the spectrum, but for us it's just about, it's non-profit. So it's just about sustaining the service.
Absolutely. Okay, let's take an ad break, and that of course is Suraya Nawab from the Islamic Care Line. We just kind of brought you up to speed about the previous discussion we had 2 weeks ago. It was their 25th anniversary. Today we're talking about cyberspace relationships. Very, very convenient, but at the same time can be very dangerous as well, and can get very ugly, smutty, and totally out of hand. So stay with us. I'm talking to Suraya Nawab from Islamic Care Line, and we're now going to touch on cyber relationships, cyberspace relationships. Now, the world today looks very different to what it looked 25 and more years ago. Relationships were conducted very differently. Technology has enhanced our lives to such a degree, and you kind of wonder where to next. What is the next 5, 10 or more years going to look like as far as technology and the ease of our lives is concerned? But with it comes perils as well, abuse of power, abuse of a whole host of issues as far as technology is concerned. And we do know that in our own families and our communities, our youngsters, and I guess even older people, are involved in cyberspace relationships. So what exactly are they? Are there perhaps boundaries in place? And how vulnerable are you in a cyberspace relationship? Back to you. Pretty loaded, isn't it?
It's a loaded question. It's also a loaded topic. And as you rightly said, 25 or more years ago, I mean, again, if I take the example of the Islamic Care Line, this was unheard of completely. It wasn't anything that was prevalent in the community. What is striking for us is the rapid growth of this sort of industry. It's just like shot out of all proportion.
When I look at Facebook, for example, how young people meet.
Yes.
I mean, you put your entire life out onto Facebook.
Yes,
everybody knows your business. Everybody knows exactly what you're about.
But remember,
and how dangerous is that?
Remember, you have a choice. You have a choice about what you put on and what you hold back. So the short definition of this is that it's either a virtual relationship or an in-person relationship. So you have cyberspace relationships that remain only virtual, and obviously you can look at it and immediately it hits you that there's a lot of misreading in that. I mean, people can be talking to you. They
Misreading and misleading.
Misleading, misunderstanding. Because you, for example, get in touch with somebody, they don't really have to divulge their age. I know, and we all know that physical appearance is not the most important part of a relationship.
But that's the one thing, the physical appearance is the one thing that attracts you initially.
Yes. Yeah, well, it used to. Let me put it that way.
I think it still does, but
I don't know about that, because when people engage in only cyberspace or social media relationships, they imagine a lot of what that person looks like. Okay, now with video calling and sound and voices and things like that, and even pictures, Skyping, all that. Obviously, it's easier. You can see that, but still, a person. It's never the same as a real life experience with somebody.
I need to say something to you. I met up with a youngster the other day and we got talking, and she was telling me, when I say youngster, she's in her 20s, she was telling me about someone she met online, and he ticked all the boxes and eventually they met. And you know, whether we like it or not, it's happening in our communities.
Yes.
We have to accept that it is happening. Absolutely. And then I asked her, well, you know, when are we hearing wedding bells? And she says, you know, when I met him, he was nothing at all like what he came across on Skype or on Facebook. And he even looked pretty different to his picture. The picture was probably photoshopped.
Yes.
So he looked very good on Facebook, the Facebook picture, but when she saw him in real life, she was very disappointed.
Yes, absolutely. And so exactly what you're saying, it can be very deceiving. And the deception actually breaks down the relationship completely, no matter how many years they've been having the cyber relationship. The reality of it when they do meet is a completely different thing. That's just the one part of cyberspace relationships that, for me, I think that's important. And that because there are others, there are couples now coming to the office because they have, for the past few years, mostly, like 90%, only communicated via social media or Facebook or in that space. Okay? That's abnormal. So that's a married couple. And then also, they
living in the same house.
Living in the same house.
Oh, goodness me.
There are also, we know there are pronouncements of talaq over social media. For me, it's a very cowardly action. I mean, for a male to pronounce a talaq to his wife over social media, he's being an absolute coward. I mean, not being able to face it up front and say, I was part of this marriage and this relationship. We need to part our ways, but
do it respectfully
and
face to face.
And face to face, because there's nothing like, you know, when you just normally typing out or texting a message on WhatsApp or whatever, no emoticon, and I don't care how technologically advanced those emoticons are. They can start beating hearts and they can do all sorts of things, but it's never going to be the very same emotion that you can pass on personally.
All right, two other very important issues we need to cover on the show this morning is the success stories, because there are success stories.
They are.
And the issue around the excitement this creates, and the couple involved will rather remain in the cyber romance or cyber relationship for months or years on end, simply because they know the harsh reality of meeting is going to paint a totally different picture.
On the one hand, of knowing that it's going to be different, but on the other hand, you'll also find that a lot of people that go onto long-term cyberspace relationships actually have maybe some sort of social phobia or fear of real-time meeting people. They may have low self-concept, so they would Photoshop their pictures or put something completely different. I mean, let's face it, I mean, I can put a picture of myself. I can even do a voiceover. And I mean, a guy who is interested in somebody can sound like Shah Rukh Khan, or he can sound like Mickey Mouse. True. Basically, you can do that voiceover, and that's all. And I know tech fundi or anything. I know very little technologically, but I know that these things are because I see it happening.
Yes.
I see it happening. I see people coming into the office with these type of issues. The other very important thing for me is the high rate of child trafficking and pedophilia. Mm-hmm. And we know that in the confines of your home, and you may be a very pious or a very religious person, maybe being really very observant of your role as a Muslim woman, and so
or a Muslim man,
or a Muslim man, and you're very modest, and you do all the right things, and you maybe don't go out in the open to shopping malls or whatever.
And
weddings.
apart from the pedophilia, all the other pornography
yes.
that is available and accessible
yes.
on social media, so you can indulge in all of that in the privacy of your room.
In the privacy of your room, not even your home, just in your room. And that's another thing we've had at the care line, where we've had couples coming and saying that they've lost complete communication with each other because either one of them is just too busy, either on their laptops, on Facebook, for like the whole night or the better part of the evening or the night. I mean, people have lost social manners, about if you are in certain places, you don't just take out your cell phone and start, or open your laptop. And there's nothing that can take the place of real-time interaction.
Sadly, we are social beings. We need to interact with people, and yet what I'm finding, even if you go to an event or a wedding for that matter, you're sitting at a table and it's an opportunity to interact with the people
yes.
that are at your table. But we're all I'm guilty of it as well. Taking out our cell phones and checking who's trying to get hold of me.
Yeah.
Let's be in the moment.
Yes.
Let's interact with whom you're with.
Yes.
You can always catch up with that person at another time.
Because the other thing is also, you would have long-time acquaintances or even cousins or even siblings whom you haven't met for a while. So it's very easy to take out your cell phone, or you online on your laptop or something, and so just pen a little note or Facebook message or something to them, and then you forget about it, and you feel, I've contacted my sister yesterday because I sent her a WhatsApp message. That can never take the place, not even a physical. Sometimes with our busy lives, it's difficult meeting physically often enough. But even a telephone call, picking up the phone and calling somebody is more worthy of your time and respect for that person than just typing a message. And you must know, when you're using a telephone, and now we've got portable phones, right? So you can have that and you can be doing something and you can still be chatting. But the power of your voice, of the human voice, is more soothing, as I said, than any emoticon you can put on. So
let's go for an ad break. When we come back in the next 12 minutes or so, let's look at the dangers. Let's look at the pros and the cons
yes.
of social media relationships.
Yeah.
Obviously, cyberspace relationships.
Yeah.
Just how dangerous and how out of control it can get. And I've heard some horror stories, which I think we should share with our viewers
yes.
this morning, because parents who are not aware of this phenomena can start waking up to the fact of just how dangerous it is.
It can be. Yeah.
Soraya Nawab is my guest. She's from Islamic Care Line. We're talking cyberspace relationships. They're cute. They can work out. There are a couple of happily ever after stories, but they are also very dangerous, very smutty. And it kind of almost goes into that very dark area in the world of pedophilia and pornography. And with our last few minutes with Soraya Nawab from Islamic Care Line, we're talking cyberspace relationships, the dangers, and just how it can cross the border into that very dark and murky world of pedophilia, human trafficking, and a whole lot more. we'll leave the happily ever after stories towards the end of the show. Let's talk about the dangers of if a loved one, your husband or your child, is involved in a cyberspace relationship. What are the signs you ought to be looking out for? And how are you going to know without invading their privacy that they're involved in very murky, unsavory, sexually explicit, non-Islamic behavior on cyberspace?
I think it's very important, first of all, to understand that as parents and an older generation of parents, we should make an effort to at least become cyber smart to the best of our abilities. We may not be able to do a lot of things that even a 4-year-old today will take an iPad and move their fingers around like you can't believe.
Absolutely.
And so we may not be as apt at it as that, but we need to make the effort, because knowledge and knowing what is going on in your child's life or your young person's life is half the problem, half the issue won, or the challenge won, because you know what to speak to the person about. Okay, so in the same way, I would look at cyberspace relationships that have gone as far as you are now describing to be very much like any other addiction, like gambling. Gambling can become an addiction, like substance abuse can be an addiction. Sexual addiction is an addiction.
And that is exactly what it is. Some of these cyberspace relationships is a sexual addiction. So you find your son or your husband locking themselves in their, or even girls, even our daughters, locking themselves in their rooms, and Allah alone knows what's going on behind closed doors.
But that's exactly part of, as you asked, what do you look for? So if they're spending an insurmountable amount of time online, whether on their phones, because that little cell phone today opens the whole world and much more to you. So you don't have to be sitting on a laptop where you have to plug it in, or you have, So if a person in your family or in your midst, a loved one, is doing that, obviously that's an addiction. And then that's a good starting point of talking and saying, but we are not having any time together anymore, even if it's with your child, What's happening? What is easy if they are studying or they're students at some tertiary education institution or something? It's like, I'm doing my work.
And sadly, when you have a younger child with a computer area in the house, you can't put up firewalls.
Yes.
But in this situation, you are actually helpless.
You are helpless. And then I think that should also start with the little ones. So if they're on YouTube, and I mean, I've got grandkids who can go onto the phone and Nani, I'm taking your phone, and get onto YouTube. But from time to time, you never know what they get into, because unconsciously and very, very innocently, they may just pick up on something because they press a little button, it's so sensitive, and something else comes up which isn't a cartoon. Okay, and they're sitting and watching it. Now I know there are ways in which you can block phones and you can block your iPads and all your social media equipment.
But how do you do that with your husband or your adult children?
Do it.
You can't.
The other. So in terms of children, I think it's, and I tell my adult children all the time, and when my grandkids are around me, from time to time I'll go and peep and see what they're watching, because you need to show that interest, and so they don't find it really difficult when you do reprimand them and say, you know what, this is not for you to watch.
Soraya, what do you do when your adult child, you suspect that he or she is involved in pornography and whatever else behind closed doors? You suspect, you're not absolutely sure, but how do you address that issue?
Okay,
what do you say? How do you start this conversation?
Yeah, I think again, your knowledge about the situation is very important. So if you know a lot more about it, you're going to be able to approach it in a dignified way, in a respectful way. Because let's face it, there's a lot of pornography out there. I mean, the internet is full with sexual deviance that you wouldn't find anywhere else, not even in books. Okay, because
and all at a touch of a button.
And all at a touch of a little button. So you will also find that teenagers, the minute you approach them, if they're busy on something, and they quickly press a delete button or a switch off, so that's a sign. The other thing is with spouses and with young adults in the home, if they are so overly protective over that phone or that laptop or that iPad, or nobody can even touch it.
Red flags should go up.
That's a big problem with spouses. Spouses who supposedly are very happily married, but the wife or the husband, either way, are not allowed to even touch that cell phone, or even answer if somebody's in the bathroom and his phone rings. You're not even allowed, and it's causing so much of tension in marriages, because obviously if you're married for 5 or 10 or more years, whatever, that sense of trust between each other, surely there's a red flag for the trust in that relationship. Why would you be so overly protective over a cell phone message when it doesn't matter? You've been living together for so long as husband and wife. You know the intimate details of each other. You've had children together who are grown up. You've now got grandchildren, and you make such a big fuss about one little phone call, a telephone, a device. Recently, we've also had marriages that break up because spouses, and both from the husband's perspective or the wife's perspective, is caught accessing pornography or having really intimate, because you can be extremely intimate on the phone. There are, with children, we've had cases where they've been asked to undress for
even
the person,
even
teenage girls.
And sadly, a couple of years ago, in our community, pictures of these naked girls were being, people that we know, were circulating in the whole community. Now, just look at the shame and the absolute violation of that person's right. But then the question to be asked is, why did she get talked into a situation like that?
That's about also making sure that our young people are streetwise, that they know the dangers. Look, technology is a whole world of opportunity, and it can be really beneficial to, I mean, the fact that we're sitting here and having a live show,
and the whole world's watching us,
and the whole world's watching us and can access it, and tomorrow it'll be on YouTube and you can watch it. I mean, there's a lot of good in there, but for me, it's the abuse of the technology that is at your fingertips that causes a lot of the problems. And so we need to speak to our children, and we need to be open with our spouses about, you see, when you talk about sexual deviance, as I said, over cyberspace relationships, it also talks to the problems in intimacy in that marriage.
Absolutely.
And that's another topic all on its own that needs to be explored.
Or the excitement going out of the marriage. There's no romance left in the marriage.
It is.
So one of the spouses then go to these means to inject a bit of excitement in their lives.
Yes, because you must know, cyberspace relationships are all about the imagination. And we know that your imagination can run away with you very easily. And then it's a safe space. You alone, you're not, and then you justify it, because I've seen clients do this, justify it by saying, but I really didn't do anything. I was at home. I was in my room. I was alone. Okay? So
how can you accuse me of being disrespectful or having cheated on you?
Yes. When I mean, I haven't ever met her or him. You know, it's just a message, you know, and they minimize it to the extent that for a while spouses even start believing it, you know. And if, for example,
or sometimes you just want to keep the peace in the home, so
and
you
just accept it, but
you accept the excuse.
That causes other problems. But anyway, even if you just tag along with it and say, okay, you know what, I am not really adequate right now because I've been ill, or for whatever reason, you know what, so he's just venting out, and rather this than him marrying somebody else,
or going out of the
house or something,
and picking someone up on the street corners.
You justified, and that was something that was very prevalent when we started. When we had calls from even non-Muslim women who used to phone and say, what is up with Muslim men? Because the minute they prowling the streets and they see you standing on the side of the road, they'll slow down and want to solicit you
Absolutely.
And now it's very similar.
We have to end, unfortunately, and we've just got started. I think we need to pick up from where we've left off in our next program, inshallah. So bottom line is just keep away from cyberspace relationships. We look at the positives in our next program, inshallah. That was Suraya Nawab from Islamic Careline talking cyberspace relationships. You can see you can get yourself involved in a very dark and murky world of sex, drugs, and a whole lot more. Inshallah, in the next program, we look at the positives of a sound, healthy, respectful cyberspace relationship, and of course, a whole lot more. Do hope you've enjoyed this part of the program, and do stay with us. We're going for an ad break. And welcome back. I have three most amazing women on my show this morning. We started out with Suraya Nawab from Islamic Careline, another heavyweight in my studio, not literally, of course. Another heavyweight in the studio this morning. She is Hasina Kassim. She comes from a pharmaceutical background. She then went on to study law. She worked at Discovery, and now she's in Chambers. She's going to tell us all about that. She's an advocate. Her name is Hasina Kassim. And if you're wondering what we're talking about today, well, stay tuned. You're going to be amazed. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I refer to you as a heavyweight, and I, talk about this in terms of your qualifications, the person who you are, where you are, what you've become, alhamdulillah, and an amazing role model for other women in the community, very especially the young people. When I think about the years you spent studying pharmacology, you then worked as a pharmacist, and you married, you had children, you then decided to change lanes. Tell us about this amazing story. Did you at any stage think, goodness me, what am I taking on and why am I doing this?
So it's very interesting that you should actually, dwell on this particular issue. It's my main message in terms of a career change is that oftentimes we take decisions about our career when we're extremely young, very naive and inexperienced. At the age of 17, most of us don't even really know ourselves well enough to be able to take a career decision.
We kind of almost live out their dreams that were never realized.
Absolutely. And then we feel stuck often in a career that may not be as fulfilling as we were hoping it would be, or we discover that we actually have other traits that we find we want to give expression to, but we stay stuck. And I think the only message I could give anybody for that matter, and of all ages, is that it's never too late to make a change. It is scary, it's very frightening. I actually had to abandon all of my interest in healthcare and many years of having built up a reputation, built credibility in that whole sector, and move into a completely new, foreign, very different environment in law. And start at the bottom rung. So it's extremely humbling, but it's invigorating, and there's an opportunity to start again, to reinvent yourself, and it's never about you too old to do it. So I think if you actually believe that you have a trait or have a passion that you want to give expression to, don't hold back. I think we regret the stuff we don't do more than the stuff that we do. And so I think, for me now, the best part is that I can actually merge my two worlds, my healthcare world and my legal world. And I think that really gives me an opportunity to provide a solution and to exercise my skills in a very unique niche environment.
We're going to talk about how you merge those worlds and what you're getting out of it, inshallah. But for you to have done what you did, I presume you were already married at the time and you probably had young children. How daunting was that for you, and what was your support structure? Because you can't do this without support.
Absolutely. So I have an incredible husband and family support system, and I had to study, yes, while I was working and raising kids and running a household, and we underestimate what goes into running a household. And so there were huge demands on my personal life, but because of the support and because I had the conviction that I wanted to see this through, I think I managed to juggle all of those balls. It doesn't come easily. It comes with some great difficulty. And of course, without people assisting you, and it's simple things like fetching kids, making space for you when you've got to study for exams, and those things really do add up, and they count a significant amount in being able to make this happen. So I could never have done it without huge support, but it's also about personal resolve, and it took a while. It didn't happen in the 3 or 4 years that it would normally take to have an LLB degree. I paced myself. But the most important message that I have is don't give up. Many times it occurred to me, well, you've got another career, you are fairly successful in a big corporate. Why do you want to persist with this? Is that the whole idea is to see things through to completion, and that was really what I had set in my mind. It was a lesson that I wanted to show my kids as well. It was something I felt a message that I needed to give them. That if you embark on something, as difficult as it might be, persist and see it through.
All right, now also now that your kids are young adults, as a matter of fact, the one's getting married sometime soon, alhamdulillah, and you don't look older than 20 yourself, and I kind of wonder, how do you do it?
Auntie Julie, you're very kind, but maybe we should put that same question to you, because you look amazing yourself.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, I think it's also about just, being invigorated by challenges. I think it's people, it's your psyche as well. And I think age is not about how many years, it's about what you do. It's about the activities, it's about your experiences.
It's what you what you put in and what you get out of life.
I think we should count our lives not in years, but in moments.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Hasina, I just need to interrupt and just to digress ever so slightly. I know we were going to be talking about life Isidimeni this morning from a very conversational point of view, but I've just been informed by the producers that because our first interview overran, we only have 12 minutes on this interview, so let's talk very generally about giving lessons to young people, and let's talk about the 2 professions that you've got yourself involved in, 1 foot in each profession. Let's talk about that dynamic, and inshallah we hope you will come back again and talk about this very important issue around mental health and how we as the general public view mental health. I guess we want to wish it away, but let's leave that for another time. Let's focus on you and how you've made this possible in your life. Juggling, raising a family and changing career path in the middle of all of that.
So I think, it's about being very realistic about what your expectations are, and not using age either as an excuse or as a right to be able to be successful. Everything requires hard work. So I've actually had to place myself in the position of a 25 to 30-year-old starting in a new career as an advocate, and understand that in fact I'm a junior. So that's very humbling, because in fact that's how they characterize us as, you have junior counsel and you have senior counsel. And so despite my age and despite the fact that I have another career, I'm actually regarded as a junior. And for me, for the first 3 years, you regard it as...
Does it bother you?
Not at all, because I think I had to accept the fact that in fact I am inexperienced, and that's the reference that they make to me. I'm a baby junior, and I earn equivalent to what any other young, inexperienced advocate would actually earn. And so, what's also been very clear was that actually I have to do all the research and all the studying and all the get back to basic stuff that a junior would be expected to do as well. So I've often had to work with seniors in my team, in my legal team, that are younger than I am. And it's actually
humbling, and it's sobering, but at the same time, you make shukr alhamdulillah for where you're at. Because how many people can actually say, I'm truly in a place that I want to be? Having said that, Hasina, I also know you mentioned to me that you were very involved in community health care. What was that all about?
So when I was actually a practicing pharmacist, I had a very unique opportunity to set up a home-based care company. And that took me into a very new, unexplored opportunity in South Africa. And I still think it's unexplored. And that was a lot about community-based care. And when we talk about Isidimeni, I will speak a lot about
Inshallah.
how home-based and community-based care with the right support systems, has a very valuable place in the healthcare delivery system. It's completely underutilized in South Africa. Healthcare has been institutionalized to a greater degree than it should be. I'm not saying that there isn't a place for acute medicine and there isn't a place for acute hospitals, but I think they're overutilized, and simply because we don't have a community infrastructure to be able to care for people in a community, not only the home, but in the community as such. So often we return people from a very acute environment where they have intense care to nothing, because a home environment is just not equipped to be able to deal with the complexity of some ailments or diseases.
Believe it or not, we've only got 2 minutes left. So let me ask you this question. How do you balance, and you kind of spoke earlier on about having one foot in 2 different worlds. How's that going to play out for you with your pharmaceutical background, your community-based healthcare, and now being a legal practitioner or a lawyer?
I think it gives me a unique opportunity because I have a skill set that I think is very different to your average advocate or your average healthcare practitioner. And it's actually 2 very different worlds. And so that allows me to be able to bring a lot of value to any matter or any position that I would hold as a medical legal expert, because I can understand both worlds. And
I'm thinking, like in the United States, I brought this up in our previous discussion, where they have all these legal matters. Every second citizen wants to sue a legal practitioner for something that goes wrong in a procedure. Do you see yourself in a situation like that?
I see myself potentially acting either for plaintiffs or defendants for that matter. Let's not disregard the fact that even though, yes, things do go wrong in healthcare, it's not a perfect science. Even if you do your best, even if you do everything that you could possibly do as a healthcare practitioner, things do go wrong. So sometimes the voice that's not being heard is that of the healthcare practitioner and in defense of what was done. And so it's a balance of both, right? It's about making sure that firstly people who are harmed and damaged can actually get what's rightfully theirs and that they can get some sort of compensation for the harm that was done to them, but that healthcare practitioners who actually perform the best work that they could possibly perform, but where things do go wrong, also get the opportunity to defend themselves.
Through an act of God. And that's where we leave it. I can't wait for the follow-up discussion, which hopefully we're going to have soon. We have to explore the whole issue around Isidimeni. Thank you so much. And I do apologize that our time's been cut short.
You're welcome.
But we overran the first interview with Suraya Nawab.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The amazing Hasina Kasim, I can't believe it, that she had the guts to put aside everything and follow her dream, and look at the product that we have here. And I think more and more of us girls need to start believing in ourselves and chase and follow that dream, because at the end of the day, it is us that are going to be sitting and being very happy with the outcome, hopefully happy with the outcome, that we have followed what we believe was right for us. And not only will we be happy, just imagine how we're going to be touching lives around us in such a positive way. Alhamdulillah. The lovely Hasina Kasim, she was here talking about her change of career path, and she says it's never too late. Still to come on the show, we're going to definitely have her back in again. She has so much more to share with us, so just watch the space. But still to come, we have the lovely Julie Alli from Raise Corp to come and talk to us about incubators, business incubators. No relation to me, but let's see what she's all about. And our final segment for this morning, we're going to be talking business on a Saturday morning, but something to think about, something to wrap your head around. We're going to talk to Julie Alli. She is the content manager at a company called Raise Corp, and it is said that they are Africa's only sustainable business prosperator. First time I've come across that word. We're going to ask Yasmin to unpack it and what is Raise Corp all about. I understand they're a huge success story, so she's going to tell us why they matter and why young people who are studying financial management and all of the other financial sciences should start taking note of this company. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam, thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. And what on earth is a prosperator?
So a prosperator is a Raise Corp unique word. So most people would call themselves incubators. We don't like the word incubator because it brings up all sorts of images of sick chickens. That's exactly what my CEO actually says.
Right.
We're not dealing with sick chickens.
Right.
We're dealing with entrepreneurs who have everything that it takes in order to make them a success. All they need is a little bit of help. So we're there to help them prosper, hence a prosperator.
Lovely. I like the play on that word. It's beautiful, and I think it fits in with Raise Corp's image. And I know that your CEO of the company also had a shaky start in business when he entered the big bad world of business. But look where he is today, and it's just an amazing success story. But it also meant a lot of hard work and dedication from his side.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about his story is he'll be the first one to tell you that he actually had every opportunity to succeed.
Because he came from a successful family.
Exactly. And he grew up with entrepreneurship, and he grew up in the business, and he had the best education, and yet he still struggled. So it's not always about the start that you have, it's more about how you finish and your dedication to what you're trying to do.
Yasmin, that also brings to mind the importance of a mentor or mentorship, because he had a great mentor.
Yes.
What is, the strong message you want to give out to young people this morning? Because they all, young people, very savvy, out of university, maybe in their first job, think they know it all, they're invincible, they don't need a mentor. Your thoughts?
So we actually don't have mentors, we have guides, okay? Because what tends to happen is with a mentor, you become overly dependent on them. A guide is someone who stands with you and helps you kind of just uncover the pitfalls for yourself, helps you look at what are the options that I can take in order to become successful. Having a mentor is a beautiful thing. It's one of the great services as we see it. Being able to walk with someone and show them how to not make the mistakes that you've made in the past.
Almost hold their hand.
Hold their hand, but you need to take the steps yourself. So what I tend to say to especially young entrepreneurs is hold on to that confidence that says, I can do this. But don't be so arrogant to think that nobody's done it before you.
Who is Julie Alli? You're a content manager at Raise Corp. How long are you with them, and what's your journey been like with Raise Corp?
So I've been with the company for 10 years.
Ooh.
Just about. We're getting there. And when I started with Raise Corp, we were 22 employees. And the business was already, profitable. It was already well on its way. But we were 22 people doing the work of 50. And I must tell you, that was the most exhilarating place to be, because you could see the difference that you were making in people's lives. You could see the profitability grow in businesses. Fast forward to my journey in the business. We always had a saying when I started, nobody really has a title, because you got involved in everything that needed to be done. But I come from a training and development background, and my love for training and development is because I believe that everyone can succeed. I believe that everyone has the right to succeed. We just all need a little bit of help sometimes. So when I started at Raise Corp, it was initially in the learning department. So we talk about learning, not training. And I've kind of stayed there in a lot of ways, developing the content that helps our entrepreneurs grow their businesses, and that's important. We develop entrepreneurs that are self-sustainable. We don't want them to stay with us forever. We want them to go out there, prosper, be independent, be able to mentor others, be able to grow their profits, and be able to grow their employment base, because that's what we're really about.
Now, all the politicians tell you that we have a 27-28% unemployment rate in the country. We have scores of young people unemployed, and the only way we can fix the situation in the country is through entrepreneurship.
Yep.
But it also takes guts, courage, and money. How do you get started? So you have this big brainy idea, you don't have the money, and you don't know, the banks are not going to give you a loan because you have nothing to show.
Yep.
What is, if I now am in that situation, can I come to Race Corp? What are you going to do for me?
So the majority of our businesses that we have on our programs come to us with a running business, but not necessarily a profitable business. Okay, what we're looking for is a minimal amount of sales. Okay, and the reason that we look for that is quite simply we want to see that you've spent time building value. That's the most important thing in a business. If you are creating value for your clients will value you and will buy from you. A lot of the time what then happens is, even though you've got a great idea, your clients kind of look at you and go, but I don't know you, and there's that lack of confidence in small businesses. We don't provide funding purely because we believe that businesses should be selling in order to make their own funding. And again, that comes down to how much value are you creating.
So let's just backstep to that question of mine initially.
Yeah.
If you have a situation like that, a person coming to you, where would you direct them?
So believe it or not, there's actually a lot of money out there. There's a lot of money available through government grants. There's a lot of money available through other startup programs. There's a lot of money available through private equity funding, etc. So we would say, go and look at these things, but we wouldn't necessarily say to you, that's the right thing to do. Rather, we'd say, build that value proposition so that you can create your own internal funding through your sales process.
Let's look at the typical type of small, medium enterprise that you would assist, and the areas that you'd assist them. Let's just look at what sort of creature should be coming to you and how you help them get to the next level.
Okay, so over the years we've developed a variety of products that cover all sorts of entrepreneurs, from the guy that's just been full-time in his business for 6 months all the way to multi-million rand businesses that need to get themselves into that next phase. And for each of these programs, the criteria would be different, and the nature of the beast, so to speak, looks different as well. Our most typical entrepreneur is someone who has been in the business on a full-time basis for, I'd say, roughly about 2 years, okay? Although that's not a necessity, depending on the program, is struggling with, in particular, cash flow, struggling with sales, and is kind of sitting there going, I have no idea how to do this. I started it, I'm trying, I'm working hard, but has no idea how to move themselves out of the daily panic situations. Because entrepreneurship is a stressful thing, and it's a lonely thing as well. So that's the other thing that our typical entrepreneur is looking for. They're looking for a home. They're looking for someone to alleviate that entrepreneurial loneliness, because ask anyone that owns their own business, it is a lonely thing. You're alone with it at night.
With all your problems.
Exactly. And when you put your head down on that pillow where everyone else falls asleep, that's when your nightmares attack you in terms of, am I going to be able to pay the bills at the end of this month? What if that contract doesn't come through? What if someone steals my idea? So all of those nightmares is what the entrepreneur struggles with on a day-to-day basis. And we provide a place that says, you're not alone. At any given time, we have about 500 entrepreneurs on our program.
So what does the program look like? And you're now talking about, you're talking numbers, you're talking 500 entrepreneurs on the program. Would you normally give them, take them through this learning program in a classroom situation? Or is it one-on-one? And for how long does the program run? And of course, I've thrown a whole host of questions at you. And what does the program cover?
Okay, so the typical Race Corp program consists of a whole bunch of interventions, okay? I work primarily in the learning side, which is classroom-based and content-based. We focus on immediately implementable results. So what that means is every learning session that an entrepreneur comes to, there is something that they can put into their business today that grows it.
And that, we're talking a classroom situation, maybe 500 or 50 people from all different business backgrounds, but the ground rules apply to each and every business.
Absolutely, the foundations apply to everyone. And I just want to make it clear, we don't have 500 people in one room. We've got 6 branches in South Africa and various different levels, and our rooms are actually limited to a maximum of 16 entrepreneurs, so that you can actually work with the individual businesses. Then we have the guiding side, okay, which is what you refer to in terms of mentoring. And every entrepreneur gets a minimum of 3 guides. They get a finance guide. I'm not going to go into that. That's kind of obvious. They get a strategy guide to kind of help them look ahead at where they want their business to go.
Okay, we've got about 2 minutes to wrap up time.
And very quickly, we have a personal development guide.
Okay.
And that's because we don't believe in actually growing the business. We want to grow the individual to grow their business.
Absolutely.
In addition,
How long does all this take?
depending on the program, anywhere from 6 months to 3 years.
Okay.
So for different levels, for different interventions, it's going to be different timeframes for different businesses and different entrepreneurs. We're going to be looking at how much do you actually need.
You wanted to add something important there?
They also get access to infrastructure, so they can use the building as an office, as well as a bookkeeping service, which is so important for a lot of entrepreneurs who don't want to look at the numbers.
Let's assume I'm a small business owner. My turnover may be under R1 million, R500,000 per year, which is nothing to be scoffed at. I mean, I think that's great. What's it going to cost me to join up to a service like yours?
So we run 2 programs, but the program that we would probably put you on is either our comprehensive enterprise development or supply chain program, and it costs you for your first year about 110 Rand a month, because we have corporate engagement.
110 Rand a month?
110 Rand a month. We have corporate engagement, and the principals, as we call them, actually pay for the program. The program is worth about 270,000 Rand for the year.
I can't believe, is that all you charge? 110 Rand a month, and I attend
to the entrepreneur.
a session once a month, I presume.
So you have learning sessions on a weekly basis, 2 hours per week. You have your 3 guides, that's 1 hour per month with each of them. You also have foundational lessons. You also have access to the infrastructure.
For 110 Rand a month?
Like I said, where we make our money is through the BBBEE scorecard in particular. So we have corporate companies who need to make up their points and who come to us and say, give us an intervention that works, because they are tired of throwing their money out there.
This is absolutely amazing. I don't own a business, but I think I'm going to sign up anyway, because I think there's a lot of growing that can happen there.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that's where we leave it, but unbelievable. A company like Race Corp, they call themselves prosperators. They will make something out of you, help you reach the next level. It doesn't matter how big or small your business is, or for only 110 Rand a month. I can't believe this. This is true. It's actually for nothing. So all you small and medium enterprises out there, this is the place you want to hook up with. These are the people you want to hook up with. They will take you to the next level for 110 Rand a month. And of course, I think you'll have to sign up for a year or possibly 2 years, but still well worth every dime you spend there, because you have business guides, you have mentors, you have all of this learning going on. Grab it, and grab it with 2 hands. And that's where we're going to leave it. We greet the lovely Julie Alli. And all I can say is, on this show today, you've definitely gotten money for your buck. Absolutely. That's amazing. So I do hope that you're all going to be joining Race Corp in your droves, because it's an amazing opportunity. And till we get together again next Wednesday at the same time. I'm still reeling from the figure she's given me. So till the next time, as always, a big thank you to the production team. From me, Julie Alli. Thank you for being with me. Till the next time, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.